Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AMPM podcast. My name is Manny Coates, and I will be your host, and this is the show where we discuss all things Amazon private label and how to generate recurring revenue streams 24 hours per day during the AM and the PM, hence the name of the show. Get it? AMPM podcast. As a matter of fact, we just had beer right out of the tap at the office. Yeah, we have that at our building. And while having some brews, we were making money. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Hello, everybody. I am here with Lynette Cano. Is that right? Lynette Cano from Dallas, Texas.
Hi.
How are you doing?
That's
I got
perfect.
it right. You're an entrepreneur. You've been in the wine business, or you were in the wine business for nearly 20 years before moving to FBA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
FBA private labels. So we connected on our Facebook group because you had an interesting story, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. About usually the storyline is $0 to $50,000 in 6 months. You went like $40-something thousand to zero in 24 hours. So I want to talk about that. Hold that for right now because it's a crazy story. But before we get into that, let's tell people a little bit more about yourself. You've been selling since 2015. Is that full time?
No, I was actually working part-time at my husband's law practice, doing like accounts receivable, accounts payable, and I was just wanting to do something on my own a couple of hours a week. And so I had already been listening to podcasts, but mostly like medical podcasts, trying to get myself feeling better from an issue that I had while I was, that kind of caused me to get out of the wine industry. And I just happened to hop upon some entrepreneurial podcast, and I thought, that's something I could do from home. I wouldn't have to get up super early. So I just got more and more interested in that and started looking into doing my own online business on Amazon, like in March of 2015.
Okay, awesome. And if you don't mind me asking, what kind of sales volume are you at right now?
From December 2016 up until May, we were doing about $130,000 a month.
Okay,
sales.
Wow, that's good. How many ASINs represent that kind of revenue?
There's a couple that come and go, so I would say about 22 total.
22? Okay, wow. Okay, and are those variations, or are they all individual, unique
Both.
ASINs? You got both. Okay. Is that USA only?
No, I source a couple things from China, and I also source stuff from the U.S.
Okay, and do you sell only in the U.S.?
Currently, yes.
Okay, all right. What market do you think you would be getting into next outside of the U.S.?
We have looked. I haven't heard a lot of great things about Amazon Canada.
Yeah.
Even though I've already been approved for that. There's work involved in that, so I'm not sure if we're going to get that set up, but we want to do the jet.com, of course, like everyone else, and maybe walmart.com, where it's appropriate.
Okay. Are you 100% private label?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And FBA, 100% FBA?
Nope, we do probably about 2 or 3 ASINs as fulfilled by merchant.
Okay. What you said you do some stuff in the U.S. or in terms of sourcing, some in the U.S., some in China. What's the differentiator there? Why get some stuff from the U.S.?
There's a lot of weird things about sourcing from China. Even if it's organic, you just don't trust supplements or food or anything like that that says it's organic from China. So it didn't really make sense. And my first product was from China, but it took so long to get the samples back and forth. That I decided to put that on hold and to source something that I could start quicker. So that's why I started sourcing from the U.S. And then I continued with my China supplier after about 4 or 5 different prototypes. And it took about 8 months before that one got going.
When was the last time you actually added a new ASIN?
3 weeks ago.
Okay, so you're adding on a pretty regular basis. So
Yeah.
right now, then you're full-time?
Now I'm full-time.
Full-time.
Yeah.
How many people make up your business? I'm curious. Is it just you working on it?
It was for the first year, which was crazy because I was at the office. I started working out of our condo, and then after about 4 or 5 months, I wasn't doing things that the business model teaches you. Initially I was having other people pack my product, but I was having some quality control issues. So I decided just to order it to my office and do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that was involving needing to have a place to ship it to, not at home. So I moved into the same building that my husband has his law practice and just started getting deliveries there and doing the packing there. And I was there till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. But I wasn't really sure how long I wanted to do this as far as the USA sourcing, because it was it's just a very unique product. So, and my deliveries weren't always as consistent as I thought they should be before I brought someone else on. And then finally, by 2016, I was just getting overwhelmed, and I decided to bring on another person part-time. And she had some really great background experience in sales and shipping, and she actually kind of got into what I was doing as well and just started showing up, longer hours, more days, and now she's like my co-pilot. And so her and I just we just sailed by ourselves till really about 6 months ago, and we brought on another part-time person who was looking just for something to do 2-3 days a week, and then we just hired a fourth person about 3 months ago.
And are these people all working in the same place, or is everybody remote?
A little bit of both. They come to the office because we do all the packing ourselves, or at least most of the packing ourselves, mm-hmm. And then they have some tasks that they do that like customer service stuff can be handled by somebody at home, like search engine optimization stuff, or our Shopify store can be done remotely from that person's home. So we've kind of like filled out where our strengths and weaknesses are, and each person that has a strength can do some of that work from home, obviously.
Okay, great. And you mentioned Shopify, so I'll ask, what percentage of your sales are coming from Shopify?
I didn't have time to focus on that until we brought our third person on, and that was, like after the holidays by the time we started on it. So it's just been really the last 3 months we've done stuff to drive traffic to that. So I would say like 5% right now.
Okay, small amount. Now you mentioned you do your packaging. That's what a big bulk of the work is. Is that for the USA, the edible stuff, or is that for everything? Do you bring everything in?
It's for everything. Yeah, I don't want to bring in 5,000 units and ship it to FBA and then, deal with someone checking it in and then maybe long-term storage fees. And so we just, I have the storage space, so why not just bring it to my office and then I just drip feed it to Amazon, 100 units at a time.
Gotcha. Okay, so do you store this like in a warehouse? Is it a big product or a small product that you're dealing with?
Small products.
Small products?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't have a warehouse. It's actually a law office.
Oh, okay.
So we've just kind of taken over 2 or 3 law offices, and just one office has our computer in it, the other area is a prep area, and then we have another office that's like storage and supplies and stuff.
Have you ordered by the container yet? Have you gotten to that point?
No.
No. Okay. So when you get to that point, maybe the law office might not work.
Yeah.
It could be a little busy in there, a little full. So I want to ask you, Amazon Prime. Did you do anything for Amazon Prime Day?
Nope.
Okay. Did you notice your sales go up anyways?
Yeah. And it did so last year too. Mm-hmm. So I just didn't, in my mind, Prime is like if you have something you need to dump, or if your profit margin is super high and you can afford to pay $500 and then, discount it at 20 or 25%. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a whole lot of profit margin on my items, most of them. So it didn't really make a lot of sense.
What kind of increase did you get over your normal daily sales volume?
About 50%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so here's probably the number one question people ask, or they want me to ask people when we interview, and that is, how much money did you start with to actually start this business?
$4,700.
You know the exact number, $4,700. How did you come up with that number?
That was my first delivery, where I was working with a company that did the packing for me, and so that was like my first invoice. And I basically borrowed the money from my husband's company and paid that first invoice, and then just marketed toward where we were doing, or I was doing. I want to say $25,000 a month within the first 3 months. Nice.
So, okay. Congratulations. Yeah. So $4,700 into $25,000 a month, and then shortly thereafter, it sounds like into 6 figures per month. That's amazing. I have a couple questions about the business. What do you love about this business?
Well, I love building brands. I did that for the 20 years that I was in the wine business, only I was doing it for other people. There's when you're, and it's pretty similar. I mean, you tell stories about labels. You get people to, buy based on just emotion a lot of times. Why X brand is better than, or just for instance, like Mondavi makes a $20 bottle of Cab, and then I would hand sell these boutique wines and convince people that, to pay $35 for a wine that may or may not be better than the Mondavi wine. But people love a good story. They love, something that's unique and maybe not a whole lot of other people have, that kind of. So I like selling brands like that. And so that was what was attractive to me about, not doing retail arbitrage and selling a bunch of big name brands, but just starting something from scratch.
Creating your own thing, your own identity with the product. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's really important. If you can get into the creative side of stuff, there's just a lot of there's a lot of value to it. It really, at least for me, it makes me feel great. So.
And it enables you to connect with your customers, on a certain level. I don't think that if I had, I've heard some podcasts that people say, oh, don't get emotionally involved in your product, and that works for them. But I'm very emotionally involved in my brand. And I think that comes across to people when I email them back and forth. I don't use a VA or anything like that for customer service. I actually do most of the customer service myself.
Okay.
So
what kind of profit margins do you have on the products that you sell when it's all said and done with returns, refunds, advertising, the whole 9 yards?
I need to get like Hello Profit to find out.
Okay.
Because honestly, I want to say on some items it's probably maybe 15%. On other items, maybe 20 to 25. So I don't really have a handle on that yet.
Okay. I asked you what you loved about the business. What do you not love about this business?
I guess just some of the things you can't control, between supply issues, when you try to be as proactive as possible and you think you spell stuff out and then stuff still comes in wrong, or dealing with end users, with customers that, leave you a review and it's not even your product. And the name is like Kindle customer, so you can't even communicate with them and say, hey, this is not even my product. Mm-hmm. So just little things like that are kind of annoying, that kind of drag you down. But
the things you have no control over.
Yeah, things that's very, I like to control stuff, so that's very frustrating.
Okay, so now I want to get into the big news for you. A little while back, saw that you'd posted that your account had been hacked essentially, and that you went to go see how much money was going to be transferred, and it didn't show anything, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, actually, what happened is I woke up on May 23rd, and I got a notification from Seller Central saying that my account had been suspended. And I was like looking at it and trying to think of, well, okay, what has happened recently? I moved into a new home. I changed my email address because my internet provider didn't provide out here. And then I also had given someone permission, a new person permission on my back end of Seller Central. Could it have been the combination of those two? My credit card was stolen a few months before that, so I changed the credit card information. Maybe that seemed suspicious, so I contacted the Seller Central and Seller Performance, and I just bullet pointed, hey, I know all these things have happened, but honestly, it's me. You might think it's been, with all the different things that have gone on Amazon, you might think that it's someone else hacking into my account. And then I didn't get any response, and I was completely locked out of my account. I couldn't even sign in, which was crazy, which was very frustrating. So for 2 days, I couldn't log into my own account, and I couldn't get anybody on Seller Performance to respond. So I ended up just, desperately reading a bunch of threads of, I think all I had to do was put in account hack, and then some stuff came up about money going to different countries like Croatia. And so I was able to get into my account through my office manager's, because she wasn't locked out. So I got on there and was looking at the settings, and I was able to talk to someone at Seller Central, and they said, well, did you do anything recently? Like, did you click on any strange links? And I said, no, nothing with like a viral type link. And they said, did you change your banking information? And I said, no. Did you change your email? No. So I went into the settings because I had access through her account, and sure enough, I looked at the settings and the bank account information was changed to a bank in Croatia, which I didn't do. And so I looked at the other settings as far as the email, the notification where it tells you your banking information has been changed. And that was changed, but just one letter. So the email looked exactly the same, but it had an extra, letter in it. And so that's why I didn't get the notification. So then I immediately called them back and explained, hey, I think it was really a hack. And they told me I had to contact the seller performance team, which I did, didn't get any response. And then I started just feverishly reading a bunch of threads and found that it had happened to dozens of other people.
Yeah.
And way before me. I mean, there was a couple of people that it was like a year and a half ago. And then there was several people that would happen in April of 2016 and a couple in May, like myself. And I just couldn't believe that there wasn't some sort of, not only just a safety measure in place by Amazon, but just, an alert to tell everyone to check your banking information, make sure your email notifications haven't been changed even by one letter, because everyone involved in the fraud, the story was the same. The email was changed first for the notification, then the banking information was changed. And so I wanted to find out, well, do we get our money back? That was the thing I was panicking about, because it was $44,000.
Yeah.
I'm rounding up a little bit, but it was like,
43,742 and 60 cents.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of money to be missing.
That's a lot of money. And so, you have people you have to pay and you have suppliers. And so I wasn't getting a whole lot of sleep. I was just trying to figure out, well, gosh, if I can just find a thread where someone says you get your money back, I'll be able to rest easier. So on the fourth day, I finally did get my access to my account. They, I guess they had it shut down or they had it frozen so they could investigate the fraud. And they told me that, to make sure I had the two-step verification, which I did, by the way. But there's a good chance that the fraud happened before the two-step verification, because it was right around the same time. So I had access to my account again, but just being shut down for 4 days, I mean, that took us from like page 1 to like page 3, when we got listed back up. So that was like kind of depressing. But I did find a thread where there was a couple from Florida, and they had only had $16,000 hacked, but they said they got theirs back after 3 weeks. So I was like, well, that sounds promising. I can wait a month if I have to. And then she told me about, well, actually before that, let me go back a little bit. I had heard that you could just email Jeff Bezos, right? Jeff at Amazon.com. And I'm like, I wonder if that works. So I emailed him, and of course he didn't answer, but I did get a response from a guy who works for his team, and he said that he was going to escalate the problem, escalate the whatever, them looking into it, and he'll get back with me when he knows more. And then meanwhile, I connected with this woman in Florida, and she gave me another email. And her name is like Susan H at Amazon.com, and she's helped people get out of the fraud situations. So I emailed her, and then she didn't answer me back right away, but she answered me back like a week later and said that, hey, I looked into your case, and my colleague is looking into it, and the amount that it is, there's a lot of people that have to sign off on that amount. So just hold tight, and we'll get back with you when we can. So that was like 8 weeks ago. And then on July 3rd, meanwhile, I was still reading the threads and seeing that it was still happening. And that's kind of when I made contact with you and said, hey, let people know they need to be checking their banking information, their preferences as far as their, make sure there's not just one letter off, because you won't notice it. The print's so small. And so I just slept a little better knowing that the money was going to come back, but I had also read it could take up to 4 to 5 months, which could be really, painful, because that's when you get all your holiday stuff bought, way before October. But I did hear about someone June 11th that got $500,000 hacked out of their account to a bank in Croatia. And I can't believe something hadn't been done, based on my experience and probably hundreds of others. So So I did get an email from the same person. His name is James, really, really nice guy. And he said, hey, I just want to let you know, and I think I sent you a screenshot. I was really excited. He said, we got the money, the funds, they're going to be dispersed into your account on your next disbursement, which was yesterday.
Nice. So you saw it. It's in there.
It's in there.
All
So-
right. A happy ending to that one,
Yeah.
right? That's crazy. And I wonder how many, what percentage of people actually do not get that resolved because of whatever the reason is. So that was great. That was great that you actually went through all that trouble to finally make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, when I first called Seller Central, I mean, you get a lot of those people from India, right?
Yeah.
So they give you a canned response that they're writing from or they're reading from, and I just didn't really feel like any of them really grasped what happened. Like they thought it was my bank, like I was missing money from my bank. They just didn't really understand. I was getting frustrated that I couldn't speak to somebody that, that spoke English and that I knew understood the gravity of what happened. So I think.
Yeah.
If there's any lessons to be learned, it's just, dig in a little bit. The threads have always been really helpful to find information on that. And just having a couple of contacts that can confirm, what what to do next.
So where do you think it all started? How did this actually happen?
Okay. There was a guy who I had also connected with that had lost $68,000, and he wanted to do some class action lawsuit because he said that he spent hundreds of dollars having his computer checked by a person, who checks for viruses and any kind of malware, and found absolutely nothing on his computer, right? And he wanted to do some sort of class action lawsuit, which of course I didn't want to be any part of. You don't want to really bite the hand that feeds you, and that's a good way to just not be on Amazon at all. But yeah, he thought that, I guess the guy from Germany that had done the research for him said that he did find his phone number listed on a list of a bunch of phone numbers, and they were all Amazon sellers, and they were being sold like on the black market for like $1 a piece.
Oh, wow.
So who knows? I mean, I don't know if that's someone's theory, but I mean, it's definitely like an inside Amazon job.
Yeah, they could come from anywhere, and especially if people aren't using very, very, very secure passwords as well. That's another way. A lot of people think, if you don't have uppercase and lowercase and symbols and numbers, they can just brute force it. But the good news is you got it back, so that's good, and you're back in business. So.
Right.
Yeah. Well, hopefully people can take a little bit of, take some of these nuggets. Checking for that one extra character that you talked about because you didn't see. That was in the email you're talking about.
Yeah. It's in your your preferences, notifications, and then there's probably like 10 or 12 of them. So you may not notice it because it's like you get different notifications for different things, which could be changing your banking information or seller performance notifications or whatever. So it's a long list, and they didn't change any of them, but just the banking information notification, and that's why I get it.
You were using a Gmail account?
No, I was using. You mean like I was using Outlook at the time. I'm using Gmail now, but at the time I was using Outlook. But my seller. But are you talking about like where?
Yeah,
Seller
you said
Central
they changed the email, right?
Well, no, in Seller Central.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So they changed it they just added like one, like if, let's say it was Lynette at whatever, they put an extra E or something in there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Well, so outside of maybe trying to be a little bit more defensive when setting things up, and we'll move on from this, but what would you say would be the biggest mistake you've made in this FBA journey, if anything comes to mind?
The things that, to me, that I've kind of kicked myself more the most is, you go to trade shows, you see product or you get samples and you get excited about it and you think, oh, I'm going to order, $40,000 worth of this because these samples look so great, right? And I started out buying small quantities of stuff and then slowly growing, to bigger size orders. And I probably should have kept it like that, but there was a couple of deals that I did where I bought like from a first-time supplier, where you buy like a lot of product, because I'm used to buying big bundles to get the best price, and it wasn't really representative of the samples that I got. So I would say that, I'm going forward. It doesn't matter how long I've been doing this. If it's a new supplier, I'm going to start off small, smaller orders. It doesn't matter if it costs more.
So to end this podcast, what would be one or even a couple, if you want, tips that you can leave the listeners with?
Well, one of the tips, which also actually has more to do with the fraud, is not to use the same email for your Amazon account as you have for other emails. That was a tip that I learned in reading the threads. To like pick an email, which is, I guess, hard to do if you've started like I did 2 years ago, where I don't really have a whole lot of different emails, but I've used this email with like my Facebook and with other things like LinkedIn and stuff. So so I guess now I've selected an email for just Amazon
specifically for that.
Specifically, yeah.
Yeah, I recommend people, if they set up an LLC or corporation, that you register that domain and then it's use an email address at that corporate corporateemail.com, and just only use it for that. So yeah, that's a good tip. So, well, that's for the fraud stuff. Anything else you want to add, or?
Yeah, I guess just, there's a lot of talk about reviews and stuff, and I'm actually, it's just getting harder and harder to connect with customers, because with all the blackout lists that they're doing and not being able to connect with customers, I mean, that's been probably the hardest part, because that was my strength, right? And now my emails aren't even getting to customers. So, I would say just come up with different ways to connect with your customer, whether it's through social media or, unique inserts. I mean, because people aren't getting emails like they were before. You spend all this time, and I did a lot of, my own template. I didn't use other people's templates. I created my own and spent a lot of time. And I've gotten like 0. I used to get 2 or 3 emails a day, people saying, hey, I got your email, enjoyed it, And now it's like in the last 3 months, I've gotten 1.
So people just aren't receiving them. Is that what you're feeling? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're moving towards social media and inserts. Are you doing anything? You said special inserts. Anything different?
Well, no. I need to come up with something special.
Oh, you need to come up.
I've done inserts. Yeah, I've done inserts before, and I don't think there's a whole lot of read rate, on those, unless it's something like really unique. So.
Okay. And on social media, are you using that now, Facebook or Instagram or anything to? Yeah,
I've used Facebook in the past because I also donate to charity with my product. So I have like people involved on Facebook that I connect with, and they give us some shout outs and stuff, and maybe I'll post a coupon code for the group and stuff like that. So that kind of helps build brand awareness.
What was your biggest win since you started this business? What was that super joyous moment?
I would just say just being able to, I told you that I don't know if you got this earlier, as far as the recording, but I was sick for like 4 years where I couldn't even work. So just putting that first, I'm having an LLC, right? So I don't get a paycheck, but just being able to contribute money to our household, for the first time in 4 years and have a profit. I mean, that was great. I mean, I was working part-time at my husband's law office, but that really wasn't, substantial or anything like that. So just having after my first 3 months, being able to, have money to put down on a house, which was awesome.
Okay. Well, awesome. Yeah. Congratulations on that. So it was a pleasure having you on the show. Congratulations on beating the hackers, I guess, or at least having Amazon be proactive on that. But I appreciate you coming on the show. And if people want to get a hold of you, you're in our Facebook group. Is that right?
Yep.
They can reach out to you. So we'll tag you in there, and people can ask questions. I'm sure people have a lot of questions about the whole fraud thing specifically. So thanks, and I'll have you on the show again.
You've been listening to the AMPM podcast, hosted by Manny Coates. For more information, insider tools, and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit ampmpodcast.com.